Hello you guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, you are watching BookedonCharity, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so down below. Today I bring you a May and June reading wrap up. I am going to be needing the assistance of my phone because May is a long while ago, okay? And I hardly remember what I read, so I will try give you a quick summary of the book if I can remember it and just how I felt about it. Okay, so in the month of May I managed to finish 7 books. I'm going to be telling you about the books in the order that I finished them. So first up, okay, I even forgot that I read this in May, but I had such a good time reading this trilogy. And I'm saying trilogy because I don't know if there would be a 4th book. I would really like to have a 4th book because I would like to know what is happening in the world right now. But this is the series Silo by Hugh Howey, and I got introduced into the series through the TV show on Apple TV. Me and my husband watched season 1 and season 2 like that. It was so good. It was so good. We binge watched it. It was just like packed with a lot of action, a lot of intrigue, a lot of plot movement, and it was so good. And when we finished season 2 and we're doing a bit of research trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what does the ending mean, I went on YouTube and actually found that this is part of a book series, and I was like, I'm going to look for it. So I read the whole series off of my Kindle together with audiobooks from my Libby, and I finished book 1 in April. So book 2 and book 3 I finished in May. So book 2 is called Shift. I gave that one 5 stars. That was my most favorite one. I think in book 1 it was a lot of comparison between what I know from the TV show and what I've read in the book. So there was a lot of comparisons, and I like how they kept the TV show point to point, plot to plot, exactly what happened. It was just like small little things that they added. Like I see in the TV show, they did also concentrate a lot on people's relationships, romantic relationships, whereas in the book, that's not a big focus. It's more on the main character. But in book 2, right, so if you know the premise, okay, let's pretend like you don't know the premise of Silo. So what is happening is that when Silo begins, right, you've got these group of people living in the silo because the world has had war and the outside is essentially unlivable. So people or their ancestors have built these underground silos where now the last of humanity resides. And within that silo, you've got your different hierarchies. There's a bottom level, there's a mid sections, the mids, and then the upper level where all the nicer jobs and the more, I would say, well-off people, because money is not real money in this place, but there's a lot of exchanges happening. But they've created their own ecosystem of living, and there's certain things, certain careers that have fallen away, and they've got rules of not being allowed to own a relic, and what's considered a relic is anything that predates this internal war that happened within the silo. So there was allegedly a rebellion, and through that rebellion people burned a lot of information, books, relics, and things like that. They destroyed hard drives, so the history of how people ended up there does not exist, okay? And anybody who is caught with a relic is like being punished, and you don't really understand the why, but you realize that people who are interested in relics have a feeling inside of them that something is not right here. They're not telling us everything. So they live in that kind of system, and the greatest punishment that they can give someone is to send them out for cleaning, which means that they've got cameras around the silo or just on the surface of the silo where they look and track the the situation outside to see if it's still toxic or not. And people who do crime and go sent out for cleaning are given this cloth, and they go out, they clean, but they never survive like a minute outside. So it gives people this kind of knowledge that, hey, you know, we are still safe in here, we're not safe outside. Until the plot twist. Until they send someone outside who does not clean and instead disappears over the hill. And it creates a whole shock and a split within the silo, because now there's people who believe that, no, this person went over the hill, is alive, therefore it's livable outside, let's try to get out. And there's people who are just like, but it's not safe outside. So you start seeing almost like a civil war just brewing in the silo. It's very, oh my gosh, it's very interesting. The concept is very interesting. So I read book 2, was just Shift, right? And what I loved about book 2 is that it took us back to before the silos were even built. So now we're following a different character, and at first you don't know what is going on, what's about to happen. But as the story continues, you're starting to see the threads almost like coming together. And it's called Shift because while they were just after the silos were built, there is a silo. Oh, this part is gonna be spoiler, okay? I don't want to spoil it. But like, how do I explain Shift without telling you what it's about? Okay, this part, guys, this part is spoiler. So Shift follows a main character starting from before the silos were even built, and you get that this person is very important in this whole project. And why it's called Shift is because he gets placed in this situation where he is working in shifts, and by shifts meaning for a year, I think it was a year, you are awake, you do your job, and then after that you get put into cryo sleep. Okay, you wake up 10 years later, and then you do the next shifts, and so on. So that's why it's called Shift. But what I loved about it is that it took us back to how the silo was built, and the why. You get a bit of the why as well, and just all the politics that happen. It's very political. It's all the politics that happen in the background, and how people would feel like they alone are the saviors of humanity, and therefore they're gonna do this very drastic thing to fix humanity. And it's just so crazy. Like I was devouring this one. I absolutely loved it. So that was Shift. And then I read Dust, which is book 3, which I gave 4.75 stars. The only reason why I didn't get the other 0.25 stars is because I really wanted to know what happened after the last sentence. I just wanted to know what was happening after the last sentence. That is just it. And this is why I'm saying that I wish there was a 4th book, because it's so good, guys. But yeah, I read that, and then I read Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 2nd book in the Throne of Glass series. If you guys would see that I tabbed it quite a bit. Really enjoyed this one. I give it a 4.75 stars. It is the 2nd book. It was my 2nd time reading it because I just needed a bit of a refresher, and this is a series that I am reading to complete. But I loved it. We're still following our main character Selena just after she has won the competition from book 1, and she's now starting to essentially pay her dues and work for the king so that she can essentially work towards her freedom. But some of the things that she's been asked to do is very difficult for her, and she's trying to find ways of navigating that. And she realizes like that ends up putting her in a certain situation that leads up to the next book, which I don't want to spoil, guys. I don't want to spoil. And then I read a book called Everybody is a Liar, and this is by Liv Constantine. And I'm trying to remember what this book is about. Okay. I'm actually reading the synopsis right now because I'm just like, what's going on? Okay, so we're following a main character called Julie, and Julie is a mystery writer, and she suspects her husband of cheating, and she's got a best friend called Darby, who I think lives next door, if I'm remembering correctly. And Darby suggests that they should go to couples therapy. She knows a great therapist, so they start to go seeing a therapist. But as she's seeing a therapist, she's starting to find that this whole cheating business, there's like something more linked to it, and the lies that come out of it. Somehow I gave this book 4 stars, but I can't even talk about it because I'm just like, in the moment, I enjoyed it. It was very quick. It was a 3-hour and 24-minute audiobook to listen to. So I don't know. I don't have much to say about it. And then I read this graphic novel. So this is called Mismatched, and it is by Anne Camlin, and it's illustrated by Isadora Zerafino, and it has very, very beautiful illustrations. Like when I saw it, I got the vibes of Heartstopper, and even Alice Oseman blurbs the story, but it didn't give the same warm, cuddly, romantic feelings. Like, it's not romantic. This book is not romantic at all. And funny that, you know, it's filled with like lots of hearts, but we follow our main character, Evan. Evan is a makeup artist and a content creator, influencer, and the chairman of the queer society that he's part of. So he's very active on socials. He's very into beauty, into fashion, and we've got a new member that joins the school, and he essentially takes her under his wing and decides that she needs a makeover. But she's just like, no, I'm okay. I don't need it. I like the way I look, and she's a bit shy. And at first glance, I just don't like how he was trying to force her to get a makeover. He's not the most likable character because he comes across as very pushy and very full of himself, but the other characters around him are lovable. So this new girl is very lovable. His best friend from next door that he grew up with is very lovable. But also I say it's not a romance because it's like a 17-year-old teenager trying to, I can't even say he's trying to figure out love, man. He just had a bunch of crushes, and he just went from one crush to another crush to another crush. I don't know how also the author just made it dramatic to a point where every time he had a crush on someone, that person had a crush on someone else, or his friend has the same crush. So, and he just moved from one person to another. He didn't even give himself a break. So in terms of that, I wasn't too happy about it. I love the illustrations. They're beautiful to look at. The pacing of it is a little bit weird because you don't know when time has passed. If you read a lot of graphic novels, you would know that some of them would, you know, put a little text that say the next day, a week later, 6 months later. This doesn't do that, and it becomes a little bit confusing because I was like, wait, how far has the jump been, and what do I know that happened between that quiet period where there's nothing in the book? So yeah, wasn't my favorite. I gave it 3.5 stars. I also think that I'm definitely not the target market in terms of age group. So maybe somebody younger reading this would think that this is absolutely amazing. But yeah, I love the way the illustrations look. They're so beautiful. I actually love the illustrations so much. But yeah, the story, not so much for me. And then I read Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This so far has been my most favorite book in the series. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I tabbed it quite a bit. And I think the thing that made me love it the most is the introduction of witches. Yes, witches were introduced in book 1, but not at the capacity that they are talked about in book 3. And I loved the dynamics of the witches. Like, I was looking forward to reading about them and understanding what their dynamics are. And they introduce dragons, guys, the wyverns in here, and that relationship and bond that the witches have to have with the dragons was just amazing to me. Also considering that if you know what Throne of Glass is about, like in book 1, it starts off with magic being gone, and at the same time it is banned. Like anybody using magic will get persecuted, and now the witches would be able, or they used to be able to like fly on their own, on their brooms or whatever the case may be, and now they've been grounded for so long because there was no magic and they had to figure out another way to survive. And now with these wyverns, it gives them another chance to soar the skies again. And oh man, it was so good. And Selena finds herself in a new place and with new people, new characters that we get to be introduced to, but she gets into her power more. Like, I love to see that training. She already had a lot of training and she was already like a force to be reckoned with. But the kind of training that she gets in here, you know that she's preparing for big things to happen. And I like how Sarah J. Maas has structured this whole series, that every book that follows is a build on what happened previously, but it doesn't take away from the plot. This one is the least romantic one. I feel like in book 1 there was a little 10 sequence of romance. Book 2 we had some bit of romance. This one was the most unromantic one, but I didn't mind it. As you can see, it's my most favorite one so far. Absolutely had a great time with this. I can't wait to get into the next book in the series. And then the final book that I read in May was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I gave this one 3 stars. I listened to this on audio and I really felt like the pacing was so slow. It took so long for us to get to the point of it. So in this story, you have a young girl who gets a notification that she has been selected to be a beneficiary of a will, and she must come to the reading of the will. And she doesn't know this guy. She doesn't know the guy that passed away. She doesn't understand why she's even in the will. Family also feel the same thing. They also don't understand why she's here, and they're all thinking that she's a fraud and she somehow got to the grandfather/father, and therefore that's why she's in the will, and they are trying to find ways to get her off the will. And on top of that, not only is she in the will, but she's got the biggest estate that she's inheriting. And before she can inherit it, there's these games and things that this grandfather put together. He liked puzzles and games, so he left clues all over the place, and they go through the book like solving out all these clues to figure out what is going on. And it took so long. It took so long that by the time the book ended, I was just like, I didn't care anymore. I just didn't care anymore. And I honestly don't think that I am feeling at all in the mood to read the next books that come out in the series. So yeah, too bad for Jennifer Lynn Barnes. But yes, that's all the books I read in May. In the month of June, I finished 4 books, and funny enough, all of them I have physical copies of. I don't finish a book on my Kindle, but first one is Lightbringer by Piers Brown. I gave it 4.75 stars this time around. This book stressed me out. It stressed me out. And especially when it came to that boy with the name that starts with an L, he freaking stressed me out. This is another book that I can't talk too much about because it is book 6 in a series, guys. It's a book 6 in a series. It's like a last book to the series because I hear that book 7 is the final one. And I'm just like, I got so angry. I got so angry at that guy. But in this one, we are continuing with the war that essentially started in book book 4 was a setup for it. Book 5 is where things really blew up. So we're continuing here. This is like the aftermath of it all. And we see certain characters kind of like coming together and some characters moving away from each other. We see how the plot is shifting a little bit and how the politics and the dynamics are shifting a little bit. And you get to see that certain people are running the game behind everybody else's back, and they're sitting there like they are the ones like following the rules, but they have a bigger hand in this jar that you don't even know. So yeah, I read this, absolutely enjoyed it. I can't wait to reread the whole series next year. And yeah, so this is Lightbringer. And then I reread The Poppy War for the 3rd time. I gave this one 5 stars again. I feel like a lot of you by now know what the story is about, but if you don't, we're following Runin, who is a war orphan living with her step-parents who sell opium. And all her life, they are treating her like, you should be grateful, you know, that we even took you in, therefore you're gonna do all this work for us, you're gonna do it for free. And when she turns 16, they start trying to sell her off to this older governor man to marry her off so that they can get easier trade for their opium. And she's just like, no, I'm not letting that happen. So she decides to seek the help of a tutor in her village called Tutor and gets him to help her study for this exam called the Keiju. And if you pass the Keiju, you get entrance in the best military academy in the country, which is called Synagard. So as our main character, we obviously know that she's gonna get in there. And once she arrives, she finds that she feels very out of place. Like everybody there is like a general's son or daughter. You know, they come from wealth, and she not only come from poverty, but she's a war orphan. And on top of that, she doesn't even have the right skin tone. So, guys, one of the things I love about the series is the different like topics that R.F. Kuang tackles. Like there's race issues, there's colorism, there's obviously war and everything surrounding war and colonization, and it's very brutal, but at the same time there's a lot of culture and religion being discussed here. There's lots of action, there's martial arts, like there's a lot to unpack in here, and it will forever be one of my favorite series of all time. And I just had a craving to read this book and to read the series again. I've already read book 2 and finished it for July, so I'm just holding off from reading The Burning God because I have other books that I should be reading that's on my actual TBR. But yeah, absolutely love this. Would definitely recommend to fantasy lovers. It is war stories, so there is going to be a lot of brutality. There is like all the trigger warnings you can think of. Just know that they're here, and it gets at some point it gets worse, guys. It's everything. And when you get to book 2, there's other trigger warnings because there's trauma, there's PTSD, drug abuse, you know, withdrawal. There's a lot of things happening, so just make sure you are of sound mind when you get into the series. But trust me, it is so good. Like if you can be in the right state of mind to read it, it is something that is good. And for me, I consider this to be a historical fantasy because it does talk about an actual war that happened between China and Japan and how the Western also got involved in there. Like the first time I read it, I was reading it, holding my phone to the one side, doing research and just finding the parallels between the two. And I think R.F. Kuang did an amazing job. And for this being her first book that she wrote, I'm just like, she'll forever be a favorite author to me. So yes, I gave that one 5 stars. And then I read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil for the Tandem Collective and Pan Macmillan read along that we had in June. Oh my gosh, I was like under so much stress with the read along itself, but the book was really good. I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it, like, people are blurbing it as toxic. Oh no, not even people, like on the back somewhere it actually says toxic lesbian vampires. So this book takes place in 3 different timelines with 3 different perspectives. And our first perspective is Maria, and she's in the 1950s. Maria, we meet her, I think she was like 10, between 10 and 12. And you can see in the 1950s, like, she's already the kind of girl who does not really fit into the rules of society of what a little girl should be, what a woman should be. Like, she doesn't cross her legs when she sits down, she climbs trees when she's not supposed to, you know, all those kind of things. So you're already starting to get the type of personality that she has. In the back of the story, it doesn't say what I was about to say, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, because after reading the back, it still didn't give me a lot to go on, but it was good because when I got into it, I got to experience everything, I feel like, the way that it's meant to be experienced. But yes, we follow Maria, and then in the 1800, oh no, what? Why am I confusing the timelines? 1950s, is it 1950? No, sorry, 1500s. In the 1500s, 1532 was Maria. And then when is, I'll tell you now. I hope this is not Maria's chapter. Oh gosh, this is when it went down. This is when everything changed. Venice, Italy. Oh no, that's still the same. Oh guys, yo, I can't. How do I tell you guys about this book? Okay, all right, just know that we follow Maria, and then in 2019 we follow Alice in Boston, who, from her character, you see a lot of like social anxiety, and we get a lot of memory from her sister and the relationship with the sister and the father that kind of shaped the person that she is now. And you know, it starts off with her going to this party, and she's like, oh, I'm not even supposed to be here, I don't want to be here, but let me just force myself to be here and just blend in. But you can see that she's very, very uncomfortable. And when she wakes up the next day and finds that her whole life has changed, I think that's where her perspective got interesting to me, because initially she was, I think, the one character I wasn't so interested in, because we were bouncing between Maria's perspective and her. I really enjoyed Maria's perspective from the get-go. I think I like a very strong female character, and Maria is definitely that, and strong almost also in a pushy way. But as the story kept unfolding, and you're seeing how these strings of threads are slowly coming together, it became more and more interesting. And I just want to say that by the time it got somewhere, like, I couldn't stop listening. I think I finished the book before I was meant to. I couldn't stop listening because it was so freaking good. I gave it 4.5 stars because I think there were some things that happened towards the end where I kind of expected a different outcome. But also looking back, I'm like, there was no other way that this thing had to go. It had to go the way that it went, because it was getting very, very chaotic, especially from one perspective, and they were really getting out of control. So yeah, I read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This is my first V.E. Schwab book to read, and I loved it so much that yesterday when I went for my solo date, I ended up buying a copy of Eddie LaRue for myself. It's been long overdue, and I'm glad that I've done it. Okay, the last book that I read in the month of June was The Tenant by Frida McFadden. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Oh, this book creeped me out. It creeped me out with some of the description of things that they were doing. So we've got our main character, who's actually a man, and I feel like at the end she was saying something about she hardly writes mainly from a man's perspective, but we follow this man who recently got a promotion at work, and he just got into this new office, and the previous guy who was there, I think, had a lot of stress and anxiety and tried to commit suicide and ended up in a mental institution to help him deal. So he takes over his job, and you can see he's very cocky, and he thinks of himself like, no, he can do this job. You know, this guy clearly couldn't handle the pressure, but I'm the right guy for the job. A week later, he gets fired for allegedly selling company secrets to competitors or trying to sell the client's information or something like that. So he's without a job, and on top of that, he works in the marketing space. So on top of him being fired, his boss goes and essentially taints his name everywhere, so nobody wants to hire him. And he gets home, he starts feeling a little bit depressed. He has a fiance, he just recently, you know, proposed to her, and he's like, the fiance is like, you know what, I feel that we just bought this house, we don't want to lose the house, so how about we get a tenant, somebody to come stay here and help us pay the rent. Gets the tenant, and from the get-go I was just like, something is not gonna work out here. Okay, something's not gonna work out. But when the tenant arrived, everything seemed okay in the beginning, and then things started to go weird. This is where things started becoming very like creepy, because they were almost like slightly torturing each other. They started becoming like this little war between our main character and the tenant, and one of them kept believing that the other person is doing something to them, and then he would think that she's also doing something to them, and they just back and forth kept doing this. And I think the reason why I gave this book a 3.5 star, even though it was so digestible, like I was just engaged in it, is because by the time the plot twist arrived, I feel like I was ready to close the book. You know, the plot twist got there and I was ready to close the book. I was like, okay, I got what I needed. There's really nothing else. And it was more of the author explaining to us how we got there, but the plot twist was there. And for me, it was like, okay, the book is done. But yeah, I did have a good time with it. Still not my favorite Frida. My favorite Frida will always be the Housemaid, and I stand by that. There hasn't been another book that made me feel the exact same way that I felt when I read The Housemaid. So yeah, this one is getting a 3.5 stars. But yes, you guys, this is my reading wrap up. I'm trying to grab all the books and do a nice thumbnail situation for all the books that I read in the months of May and June. I must try to do this more consistently every month so that I don't have to do 2 months at a time. But yeah, this is all the books that I read. Let me know in the comments down below if you read these books, what your thoughts were, and remember to like this video if you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And if you've made it this far in this video, give me a dragon emoji. Give me a dragon emoji for Air of Fire. This is my 5-star from this whole stack. I have other 5 stars that is on my Kindle, but give me a dragon emoji for Air of Fire. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.